So hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Doers Within Growth Markets, time for growth markets. And I'm super honored and just delighted to have with me the legend himself, Victor Asemota. Victor is actually one of the most prominent African innovators and entrepreneurs. And just to give a brief background about Victor, he is a technology entrepreneur and investor who serves as a board member and advisor to leading fintech and investment firms across Africa. He is Africa partner for Alta Global Ventures, the founder of SwiftaCorp, and as an advisory board member of Assets and Resource Management. He was also the co-founder of African Diaspora Mentorship and Investment Network. Victor is also committed to the growth and mentorship for the next generation of talent on the continent, which I really, really love about that. He also volunteers as a global mentor for the Google Launchpad startup community and the Interaction Design Foundation, where he's the continent manager for Africa. He was educated in Nigeria and the United Kingdom, and he's also the pioneer in the African information technology industry. Beyond that, so I also work at the Christensen Institute, and I also want to give a shout out to Efosa Ojomo. Without him, I won't be able to have known Victor. So I just want to give a shout out to that. He's my boss and he's a great friend and brother. So credit to him as well. But Victor, it's such an honor for you to be here. Thank you so much for your time. If you don't mind, for sure. So yeah, please go ahead. If you can just start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up in Nigeria and, how you, went to college, went to London for school and came back. That'll be great.
I spent most of the UK experience was just a very, very brief part of, in fact, my mother spent more time in the UK than I did. My mother went to in the UK to get an undergraduate degree. I went there for postgraduate. I'm still supposed to go back there to finish a PhD, but I don't even know yet.
Wow.
So my friends tell me that I'm a masochist by wanting to go to PhD. At the end of the day,
yes.
Like I said, I spent most of my life in Nigeria,
yes.
Even though I don't live in Nigeria anymore. Right now, as we're talking, I'm here in Ghana. I spend more time between Ghana, Togo, and US and the UK than even Nigeria. I haven't been to Nigeria in like 2 years now.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was born in Benin City. I did a lot of my early education and even university, and even I did it postgraduate in Benin. Funny,
What?
What? Actually in Benin City. So when the governor called me recently to actually be chair the Edo Innovates initiative, and, I was very, very happy. I was telling them that, look, I owe a whole lot to that state, to Benin in particular, because I did almost all of my education there, and people find it hard to believe. I actually started my business there in Benin City too as well. So when I tell people now, yeah, it's possible. You don't have to move to Lagos, or you don't have to be in any of the main startup hubs to actually get things started. I was just fortunate that I worked with one of the biggest tech companies then at that time, Geyser. Geyser took over from me. They actually pioneered, pushed for personal computers in Nigeria. This was after my national service. I worked with them briefly. I learned about computers from my uncle. During national service, I was, I'll go back a bit. My first degree was in the biological sciences, not totally unrelated to any of all of this, because my parents wanted. I was very young.
Yes.
Felt, okay, doing a first degree in the biological sciences, was pre-med, then you go to America and go to med school. But eventually I decided I was going to be a medical doctor.
Yeah.
I've done a whole TED talk about that.
So yes, I saw it. I saw that TED talk.
I won't really say this again. So for people who want to know why I switched, they can go look at that TED talk. But eventually I discovered tech, and and I took to it. It was something I really, really enjoyed doing. I ended up working with geyser. Most of all of that was just by accident. I walked into my uncle's office, saw him in front of a PC. Oh, they asked me, "Do you like this? Yeah. Do you want to learn how to use this?" Yes. He had this company that was the first accountancy and banking training school in Nigeria, called Mayo. Yeah. So he went abroad, learned, and came back and set up that. And a lot of the people in the banking industry in Nigeria and a lot of accountants, all of that went through, like at some point, he was doing all of the training for the audit firm, major audit firms in Nigeria.
Wow.
That was where I did my national service, and that's where I got my grounding in financial services and accounting, all of that.
That's amazing.
But I was still interested in tech.
Yes.
So I went, it was crazy. People look at me, oh, look, you know what? At that time, banking was the thing in Nigeria, but I wasn't interested in banking. I was more interested. My uncle was a banker. He was the CEO of a bank then.
Yes.
A Royal Merchant Bank. People were looking at me and saying, "Are you?" Because they took over UBA and all of that. Wow. But I wasn't interested in banking, and I had all of the advantages, to be in banking. I was more interested in tech, and the interesting thing was that the kind of family I come from, they actually backed me in what I was interested in, and which was one of the things I'm most grateful for. Because when I decided, okay, this is what I want to do, okay, go. I worked with a tech company, and after that, 1 year with Geisen, that was where I actually met my co-founder. He was taking a gap year from school, strangely. He was in engineering.
Wow.
He wasn't interested in engineering, was more interested in computer science. He was forced to take it, because of his grades were very funny, because he was spending more time in the lab. So he took 1 year, worked at Geisen. We were lucky that the CEO of Geisen was also the head of the Department of Computer Science, late Professor Fatima. Now which I don't even think there are people like that anymore who are both in academics and in the private sector.
It's hard. He
was CEO of Geisen, the largest tech company in Nigeria at that time, and he was also the HOD of the Department of Computer Science in Uniben.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So he basically gave us, because of his academic background, he just gave us freedom to learn. Wow. Had 40 computers at our disposal. We did, I was learning to go teach. We did a lot of training for corporates like NMPC, Chevron, banks. What happened there? For me, it was the first sign I saw for me to now realize that this was going to be the future was Chevron. Guys used to sell a lot of typewriters.
Yeah.
Typewriter business was actually the biggest business at that time.
Wow.
So
what year was this, Uncle Vic? Like typewriters?
This was 1990.
Okay.
So we supplied 300 IBM PC computers to Chevron.
Wow.
But the secretaries, initially they were doing the typewriter business, so they now supply, they switched because the IBM PC came out at that time. Yeah. That was, MS-DOS and all of that. Doesn't even, they had this word processing product called WordPerfect.
WordPerfect.
Yeah, which a lot of the secretaries found so useful because using typewriter where if you make a mistake, you're done. But the IBM Selectric was, allowed. They used to call them word processors too as well. And they had So the IBM Selectric was really a computer, but hybrid computer and a typewriter.
Yes.
So they saw a couple of that. That was their biggest business then. They now introduced something called personal computers. And people thought, but the killer app then was WordPerfect. And then they were doing this whole thing about desktop publishing, laser printers, everything just came boom. Do you know that in that year, our typewriter business died because these guys returned all of the typewriters. They now focus more on computers.
Exactly.
So because we trained secretaries, so the business just took off. It boomed.
Wow.
Because the market accepted this. The corporate market just quickly moved to personal computers because it helped a whole lot of things like spreadsheets. I remember during my national service.
Yes.
One of the very first products I learned was Lotus 123, which was the very first spreadsheet then.
Oh wow.
The first ever consulting thing I did personally was for a young man. His father ran Izuku. His father owned Izuchukwu Transport Company. He ran it for him, and told me to come teach him how to use Lotus 123. I did that, and it changed the way he was running business totally. So, and he also now introduced me to his friend who was we call him Ogbefi Mosaic, who was a trader in Idumota. This guy he sold multi-stocks in Nigeria. Trained the guy on how Lotus 123. It transformed his business, totally. They introduced me to yet another trader again. So, for me, I'd seen how that thing could change business. So that's why it was easy for me to go to a guy's scene and head corporate training there. Exactly. And that training basically was what, I had a meeting with some startup founders today, and we tried telling them the importance of market education. A lot of people underestimate what training can do.
Exactly.
Training the secretaries just changed everything for the markets, for personal computers in Nigeria. That was it. People that they could actually, bankers were now, during my national service, I did, with my uncle, we did a lot of courses for banks, for credit analysis and marketing. So for credit analysis, that was the first time we now started showing bankers how to use the spreadsheets to actually analyze.
Wow.
And it made all the difference. So my uncle wrote the very first credit policy manual for any bank in Nigeria. So, and it was showing them, okay, look, you know what? You can actually use computers to actually make your work easier. I remember Otega Emero, I think it was CEO of Fidelity Bank at some point. Otega was the first to show Otega, okay, this is how you can actually use, give me a template, for 1 to 3 for you to use to analyze credits. So it changed banking, changed the corporate world, oil and gas, everything,
everything
just changed.
Yeah.
So for me, I believed that this was the future. So and I felt that, okay, look, all other things were going to be based on it. So why would I go try to be bankers in future? Even when we acquired New Nigeria Bank, some further down the line, I kept telling the bank that, look, the future is going to be technology. The future is going to look at fintechs now. They are more valuable than banks. This is something I had seen decades earlier. So it was why I doubled down on it. And when I was doing my, after the 1 year, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just confused. And I knew.
I can't see you confused, Uncle Vic. You can never be confused.
No. I was young. I was. How old was I? I finished school when I was 19. So I was 2021. So I didn't know what I wanted to do next. Yeah. And my uncle told me, okay, look, you know what? Why don't you just try an MBA? Because I had this whole, should I do ICANN, because they were doing ICANN courses there? Should I do the Institute of Bankers exam? Because everybody keeps telling you, oh no, you know what, this is what you should do. For technology then, even up till now, to a large extent, there's still no formal track.
Yes.
You know, everybody, you know, you're self-taught. So when you're self-taught, you have this whole imposter syndrome. Okay,
Yes.
you know, I didn't do computer science, I'm coming from biological science. So, or do I need some certificates to validate me? In fact, that was even why I went to England to go and do a master's in information technology and management, because I felt, look, I never had any formal, you know, nobody was going to take me seriously because I didn't have any formal credentials in this thing that I was doing. But funny enough, during my MBA, a former client of ours at Geyser reached out to us. They wanted, funny thing, they wanted their secretaries trained on how to actually use WordPerfect at that time.
Wow.
So I did that. And, you know, then, you know, when I was working at Geyser, I didn't have any idea of what the billing was. I didn't know anything about how much they charged. I just did my work and, you know, I enjoyed doing what I was doing, just helping people to understand that, okay, this was the future, helping them change. When I now did this project for these guys for 2 weeks, when I billed them, I made more money than I made in a year at Geyser in 2 weeks.
It's crazy.
So, and that was it. So I got my co-founder, you know, because what we wanted to do, we're trying to go to Lagos for an event, which was the biggest technology event in Nigeria at that time, city organized by the US Embassy. Told him, look, you know what, this thing is what we should be doing. We're still in school, we're both students. And that client was the Federal Department of Agriculture. You know, they had a local office in Benin. They also had a project where they funded initiatives in farms, in plantations. So one of their project, it was actually backed by the European Economic Commission. So they got these farms to invest in technology and training to improve their processes. The people pay first, then the EEC refunds them what they've spent. So the Okomo Oil Palm Company was one of their projects, and it was the largest agro-allied company in Nigeria at that time. It looked at in Benin. So, you know, the guy who was in charge of the project, Frenchman, Mr. Delano, said, okay, look, I'm going to introduce you to these guys. So you need to go there and talk to them. If you convince them, great.
Yes.
You know, but you need to buy into what you're doing, because I did it for them and they were very happy. So they told me to go to the farms. I remember the first day trying to go there. You know, those guys had no, you know, like the roads were bad. You could only get there with a tipper. I had to climb into a tipper. You know, like when like Salil is in Australia now, his company was just acquired by IBM. I was telling him, look, you know where we came from? We came from entering tippers into the jungle. So I you know, like many times I almost turned back. I said, what am I doing? Yes. My mates are in banks working. Why am I climbing tippers to go into the forest?
Yes.
But it turned out the best thing that ever happened to me. Went there, discovered that, look, it was completely greenfield. These guys, they had computers they were not even using. I revived it for them, trained them, made so much money, you know, in 1 month doing that, that I even bought a car when I was still in school. You know?
Wow.
So, you know, then we now decided, okay, look, you know what, let's just see what else we can do for them. We ended up building an ERP for them from scratch, you know, automated everything in the plantation. And the luck we had, there was a CEO that came afterward, Mr. John Whitechurch, who has been one of the best influences in my life. He just basically, he told me, look, he could hire a foreigner to come do this, but if he does that, he's not going to help the local people learn. Yes. So he used to be the former CEO for USA Foods. He was one that started Mr. B.
Wow.
Became the CEO. Yeah. So he's still he's in Cornwall. He's one of my, I owe it all to him because he gave me that opportunity. Told us, look, I'm giving you these opportunities to start.
Yes.
And that was it. We made all the mistakes, we learned, we built, and it was, of course, much more cost effective for them to do that. But the thing is that gave us opportunities. And he was the one that also started the Okomu Football Club that led to people like Yakubu Egbeni, who's now a Premier League footballer now.
Yes.
So he just said, look, just do it. So we stumbled, made mistakes, and we did everything. He left eventually. He retired. Then my co-founder also had to move to South Africa, got married. I was the one running the company alone. They were acquired by a Belgian company, SwiftaCorp, who wanted us to get what we were doing in 4 farms all over Africa. And I didn't know how to scale. I didn't know about the internet. I was using the internet because, I was introduced to it. My uncle bought a computer at home. We had, using it for browse. I didn't realize that this thing was going to fundamentally change businesses at that time until it happened to me. This Indian company could remotely deploy their solutions and communicate with the people. This Okomu was inside the bush. What's the connection between a farm and the internet? Within that time, that was until an Indian company now came and helped these guys do those 4 farms and took our lunch. So our company died. That's by 21 people when that happened. So that was a massive lesson for me. When that happened, I had to now go back. Then my uncle had left banking, started this company called Bromley. We were doing, acquired a bank, New Nigeria Bank at first. Then did investments in GSM companies like Data Connect. Going there, helping him do all of that, learned a whole lot about finance and investments and all of that. But I was still drawn towards tech, but I didn't realize that that whole experience of starting Econet was going to now affect life fundamentally much later, because learning how you build something as big as that from scratch, and also understanding the nitty-gritty of telco was what was very, very useful for me when we started doing the next project. I had to revive my company again. We did an SAP project, Project Delta. Has created some SPV. That was a disaster. Even though it was a very profitable project, but eventually I now ended up going to MTN. I worked with the South African partner. We built something which should have been a payment switch, which became a virtual airtime distribution product that they used for about 15 years in MTN Nigeria. That was doing about 1/3 of their volumes. So it was also deployed in 5 other MTN opcos. Then MTN now decided they were going to do mobile payments. Get a license in Nigeria, but they got licenses in other parts of Africa, Uganda, Ghana, Cameroon, DRC, Cote d'Ivoire. Sorry, not DRC, Brazzaville. They got in about 9 markets at first, but eventually I think about 13 markets. We're lucky. Same way they allowed us in Okomu to just run through MTN, because the partner did not have the resources to actually deploy. MTN said, you guys do everything for all of us. So we did that and we maintained it. So that was at that time was the biggest project I'd ever done. Then I had a team that we had to ramp up very, very quickly from 0 to 60 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was insane, but it was also a phenomenal learning experience. Then I actually now go to see Africa for what Africa was.
Yeah.
The company the partner we're working with that actually built the product Fundamo, they were acquired by Visa in 2011.
Okay.
When they were acquired by Visa for $110 billion and I got zero from it. So then I'm like, okay, look, you know what? Maybe I should start startups that. So that was when I started my investing journey. That 2011 was just a kick in the pants. But I also knew that there were gaps. There were a lot of things that we saw that were still not done all over Africa. We set up our first company in Tanzania then, and then I now discovered how difficult it was for, Nigerians. We have this stigma. It's very, very hard for us to do business. It's much easier for other Africans to do business across Africa than for Nigerians to do business across Africa.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah,
but it's from the xenophobia to the fact that everybody believes that you are fraudulent right from the very beginning. I remember South African company we were trying to work with in anti-money laundering. Once they covered that I was Nigerian, took them 10 years before we eventually. Now we didn't work with them, but it took us 10 years to prove ourselves. Yeah, that we're not fraudulent. So it was very, very hard. Trying to scale a services business across Africa. I learned a whole lot from that. I learned, understood there were a lot of things that needed to still be built, and what I now did, I did a course at Harvard, launching new ventures. I met this guy, Joe Fuller, who was the founder of Monitor Consulting and Venture Monitor Group. The first course I did at Harvard was managing professional services firms, which was in 2011. Then I did another one in 2013, launching new ventures. So, when you learn about how to manage a services firm and all of that, oh well and good. I'm seeing Morgan Stanley, but nobody tells you the truth. This guy was the one who was managing. It's funny. I was saying, wait a minute, this guy should have been on that course. Why are you here launching new ventures? The guy was telling us that, look, there's zero equity in the services business. You have to build products. This was 2013. So I had funded some startups that died before that time. You're trying to do something. This Africa Diaspora Mentorship and Investment Network. One of the things that I discovered was a lot, I was backing a lot of first-time founders who had absolutely no clue about what they were doing. We thought maybe the tech was once you do the right tech, the market will just accept it. Okay, building a product company is very, very different from building a services company. A services company is B2B. Product company most of the time is B2C.
Exactly.
But we learned how to do B2B2C, because if you are building who already have the customers, is phenomenally easier.
Yep. Okay.
So Joe Fuller basically changed everything, rewired everything in my head. So we decided, okay, look, you know what? As we're investing in companies, we can also start doing products by ourselves. So I tried to move my company from, it was one of the hardest things. My son was born that year. I was trying to transition a services company to a product company. I was traveling like a lunatic. Also had my own personal health challenge. It was just a whole lot to try to do. So we started this company. The first company was Merchant and Agent Transaction Services. That was, we basically gave banks the idea that you could actually have a retail agent to do your distribution for you. First Bank went in hard, had more agents in Nigeria than you could imagine.
Mm.
Other banks were still trying to fall. Then before people like OPay went in now, and OPay has basically, cornered everything. And that, the OPay raised $400 million last year alone just to do this thing that we started in 2014.
Yes.
So we did another iteration focusing on renewable energy, which or IFI branches. So that's actually now currently backed by Shell. They did a $2 million investment in it and all of that. So for me, the venture building thing, I now realize, okay, look, you know what? It's not just about putting money in businesses. It's also about helping them grow. 2016, I gave a little money to a small company called Flutterwave. I saw
small money.
I saw how, literally very small money. Because I saw how I wished I had put a whole lot more, because I wanted to put, like the US banking system messed me up, and I still regret that because there was a time I was supposed to send them some money from Wells Fargo. They just totally messed me up. Now, but the thing about Flutterwave, what I loved about them was that it wasn't just about the money I gave them was insignificant. They also gave me advice to shares, to say, because we need you to help us grow. So now that was actually key, because, and that same 2016, it was the same time we started, Google was doing a startup program called Launchpad, started by my friend Roy Glasbeck.
Yes.
Who VC now, where I'm a partner also in his firm. Roy and my friend Kenneth, we went to Mountain View. This was the second class. They did one class in January. It was June 2016.
Yep.
And, I was seeing companies from all over the world, Brazil, Malaysia, everything. And I was saying, these guys, these companies had raised millions of dollars. Yes. But they were still so clueless. In fact, there are a lot of Nigerian companies that knew a lot more about the markets than they did. But the difference was that they had better funding. You know what I'm saying? They had more room to experiment. Then the Launchpad program was a phenomenal program where we now took them through, a lot of these guys, they go through accelerators like Y Combinator and all of that, but they don't really, the Y Combinator prepares you to make money from investors, but also prepare you to run a business. So we now realize that, okay, no, venture building was a thing. We managed to get some African startups like Flutterwave, Paystack, and all of that into the next class of Google Launchpad in 2017. They eventually decided to start as a proper accelerator in Africa. Yes. So we just have been doing that with them. When I started, I did a startup bootcamp with did Seed Stars, did Village Capital is the one that I found most interesting, because I saw their model and now realized that, okay, look, this actually makes a whole lot more sense, because Village Capital is much more focused on venture building and acceleration. They have a class now, they're doing something together with IBM, 55 founders, like some of the most phenomenal people I have met. Now with Google, something else I also learned, which was, because Google started experimenting with different types of accelerators. They did a not-for-profit accelerator. The not-for-profit accelerator had some of the most innovative startups I had ever met in the world. I realized that, okay, look, like removing the pressures of profit, change everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're talking about market creation innovations, the not-for-profits I met were the ones that were really creating markets. Everything that I learned from all of these programs doing, you know, I realized that it would be totally useless if I don't take it back home.
Yes.
Then I also found something quite interesting. There are a lot of Africans who are already working in places like Google, you know, Facebook, all of those other places. Who, you know, like who knew all of these things that I knew that I'm coming there to discover. And you know, for them, you know, a lot of them will have plans of, oh look, okay, maybe I'll leave. Google even had one Area 120 project where, okay, allow them to be entrepreneurs inside, you know, while they're still inside Google. Yeah. How many Area 120 entrepreneurs have become unicorns today? I don't know. From Africa. But, you know, I kept telling them that wasn't it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
For Flutter Wave, now my advisory shares are worth a whole lot more. And I'm doing everything to back them because I have skin in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So and I said, look, this is the best way to do. That's why we started, you know, the Africa Diaspora Mentorship and Investment Network. Just a couple of friends. I thought, look, you know what, guys, if I find today I had a meeting where another founder that was in Diaspora now came and, you know, really, you know, tore one startup to pieces in 3 hours. Okay, look, this is what you guys are doing wrong. That's something that was very, very costly if they had to go get employ somebody to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay.
Yes.
I remember that I employed, after that course at Harvard I did, when I was moving to product, I had to, you know, employ a product manager who was living in Boston. Get her to, I was lucky that she wanted to come to Nigeria by herself. You know, she worked with us months and everything. But that's very, very costly. You understand what I'm saying? And how many people are actually thinking of doing? Now it's even much easier. That, you know, at that time it was hard because we couldn't do all of the things that we're doing now. Okay?
Exactly.
You know, the way the world has changed
Yep.
since 2013 and 2016 is unbelievable.
Exactly.
So it's remote work and remote, everything is now much easier.
Exactly.
So we just started with a small group of people. So this year we said, okay, look, we're going to we're changing it to what they call Omni Africa. We're going to do something that, you know, have a proper venture building model where you get people who are, you know, from experienced founders to experienced operators